Thank you all so much for being here today. I am thrilled to moderate two conversations with our class of 2021 members. Felicidades once again. Each of our panelists is exceptionally accomplished and fierce. Here with us today, we have Michelle Freyre, Ivon Rodriguez, and Patricia Pacheo de Baez. I know you all are extremely busy, so thank you so much for taking the time to be here with our Alumni Society Familia to share your insights, but also to inspire and speak to innovations happening around you. The A2A Alumni to Alumni event series, which I was fortunate enough to participate in last year, are all about sharing insights, inspiration, and innovation with our peers. And this year, your profiles really touched on the central theme of transformation and growth. So I'm excited to dive into these questions with you three. So let's get started. First and foremost, I want to extend a warm congratulations because one thing the three of you share and that have in common is that you all celebrated significant career wins this year. Yvonne, this past January, you became the Chief Marketing Officer at Linto, which is a huge player in the fintech space. Michelle, you were promoted to Global Brand President for Clinique. Patricia, you celebrated two promotions. In early 2021, you were promoted to Managing Director. And then just a few months later, you were promoted to Market Leader, Chief Operating Officer, and Diverse Segment Champion, Metro New York Bank at Bank of America. So to start off, what are these career transformations and growth opportunities teaching you today? Yvonne, we'll go ahead and start off with you, and then we'll follow it up with Patricia.
Thank you, Miguel. It's an honor to be here with all of you and with Patricia and Michelle on the panel as well. I think the first thing that this has taught me in this transformation is that it's never too late to pivot. It's never too late to make a change, whether it's in the industry you're in or in the industry you'd like to be in. I think we all know the digitization of all industries is inevitable, and we've seen this more than ever during the pandemic. And so one of the things that we're not often taught early enough, especially not in, as we grow up and not in college at times, is that it's okay to change and to adapt and to pivot, even if it's away from an industry that you have known for a very long time, even if it's away from a role that you're very comfortable in. And I really wanted to emphasize this because it is something that we really need to teach our younger generations. And if I were speaking to me 20 years ago, I would say, be bold, be you, a lot sooner, right? And so I think that that's something the pandemic has taught us, and that it's great to take away, right? All these skill sets that we have can transition and can be taken into different roles in the same or different industries, and so we shouldn't be afraid of that.
That's so true. Pivoting, that is something that we have been, I think, to some extent forced to do, right? A lot of us have chosen to pivot, but to some extent forced. The pandemic has forced us to. Patricia.
Thank you, Miguel. I completely agree with Yvonne, and actually, that's actually what exactly happened to me. So I got promoted in the beginning of the year to managing director in GCIB, which is Global Corporate Investment Bank. So I was a corporate investment banker, and I have been in global banking for probably 20 years out of my 23 years of my career. So it was definitely a pivot moment to basically take this new role in private bank. And it's definitely something that I learned through the process was to take risks. That taking risk, it's okay. That getting out of your comfort zone, it's okay. That getting out of your comfort zone is okay, because that's when we really grow. And I'm not going to tell you, and I'm not going to lie, that is easy, right? Especially for those of us who are used to be the high achievers, right? To know the answers, to have the solutions right away. It has been very humbling. It's a very humbling experience for me, given the fact that I have a very, very great expertise. I have many deals that I've done for 20 years or so, lead tables, like we call it in investment banking, right? That is all have been put away, right? From a perspective of now I'm doing private banks. There's a lot of transferable skills. However, I have to reinvent myself all over again. And what I'm finding, what I'm learning, is that it's incredibly humbling and nerve-wracking, but at the same time, I'm learning so much every single day. And some days are really great, and some days I'm like, oh my God, what did I do? But I'm very sure that if you ask me this question 6 months from now or a year from now, I'm going to tell you that was the right move to do. I think as Latino Hispanics, we're not comfortable with taking risks, right? Many of our families depend on us. So taking risks is not that, it's not because we don't want to, it's because if something goes wrong, right? Many of our family members depend on us. So I echo Yvonne's point about taking risk is something that we need to be more comfortable with, because the more risk you take in career growth, for example, raising your hands for different jobs is how you grow in corporate America, or even as a small business owner. You in order to have rewards, you must take risks. So taking risk has been a key learning for me as well as the process of promotion growth. I think one of the key learnings as well that I want to leave you with is how our community came with us. I was very pleasantly surprised the moment that I announced my promotion to managing director, the moment that I announced the new job. Everybody came congratulating me, but also asking me, how can I help? That's what we need to do as a community. We need to help one another. We need to support each other and celebrate one another, encouraging each other's success in order to keep moving forward our community.
And I think you hit it right on that sometimes fear is paralyzing, and that prevents us from really stepping outside of our comfort zone and taking some of these risks and pivoting. Thank you, Patricia and Yvonne, for your thoughts on that. The fact that you all have been able to accomplish such great things, especially in the middle of a global crisis, is a real testament to your abilities and work ethic. What advice do you have for other Latinos and Latinas who are looking for their next big personal and professional victory, whether it be to take their careers to the next level up, or change industries? Any advice that you might lend based on your recent experiences in charting a new path for yourselves? Patricia, we'll go ahead and kick it back. We'll start off with you again.
Sure, sure. I think that as I was reflecting on this question, because I definitely think that we need to set up a plan, right? A career, we call it a career development plan or a plan. Be sure what think about, reflect about what is that you see yourself within the next 3 years, 5 years, but also be flexible and adapt to change, because things may change, right? Like this job in private bank, for example, I wasn't really looking for it. I didn't even think about it, right? I was just focused on the MD promotion at corporate investment bank. But this different role is something that's helping me grow and expand. So my first suggestion is make a plan and be flexible to change and adapt to the plan. The second suggestion is to make sure you leverage your networking in the proper way, right? Building mentorships and sponsors, as I reflect back through this past year, has been crucial. I would have not been able to accomplish all the things I've done past 12 months without the support of our mentors, my sponsors. And that's not relationships that I built the last 12 months. Those were relationships that I have built the last 20 years. And sometimes we assume, right, that folks, that you should look for mentors and supporters just when you need a promotion or when you need a new job. You should really invest in those relationships. And I know we're all very busy. I know it's very challenging now with COVID, but something as simple as reaching out to say hello, how you're doing, or also thinking through sending articles or thinking through how you can support and help the other person, even if you're more junior than the other person, that comes a long way. I tell you, it was critical, especially the promotion to managing director in GCIB, the support from sponsors and mentors. And last but not least, be your biggest advocate. I honestly think as Latinas, especially as Latinas, we tend to be a little bit shyer sometimes. I'm making a very broad assumption here, to be advocate of ourselves, to tell the story. What is our story? What is our value proposition? What we bring into the table, and what do we want? Don't let any others define your goals, define your next steps. Be your own and the best advocate of yourself. That would be the last advice I would provide on that point.
Thank you so much, Patricia. So I hear planning, building your network, investing in yourself, and also, more importantly, as you said, advocating for yourself. Michelle, I'm going to bring you in to the next question, but really quickly, Yvonne, can I get your perspective on this?
I think Patricia made some really great points, and much of what I would have added would have been along the lines of networking. Reach out to your contacts, reach out to the people that you know and admire, and sometimes to the people that you don't know. Don't be afraid to connect with people through your connections. But I think also one thing that has really served me very well throughout my life, and unbeknownst to me, in terms of it being something that would be positive, was asking people what they thought my strengths were. Now, I didn't always ask it. Sometimes people pointed out strengths that they thought that I had that I was unaware of. And this is important because it is often a challenge that we have in terms of self promotion. We don't often see what others see in us. And it's important to know what others see in us so we could start seeing it in ourselves. And so I would say, ask people what they think your strengths are. Sometimes you'll be really surprised, and that may lead you into the space that you're destined to be in. That is one of the ways that I ended up in fintech and in this industry. I may have already been in marketing and management, but someone saw in me something that I had not yet seen in myself, that I was interested in, but had not yet seen in myself. And so it's important to get others' feedback and not be afraid to ask how others see you and in what roles they see you, because it's really heartwarming, and it's also something that can inspire you.
Thank you for that. I think it is really important to ask ourselves these questions, right? And kind of plan something out for ourselves. But it's also extremely important to ask others how they see us, because that might allow us to transform ourselves. On the topic of transformation, Michelle, um, what was the most significant change you saw within your industry in the last 18 months? And perhaps if you can also share what is a lesson learned for you, particularly throughout the adaptive journey that we're all going through right now.
Yes, and thank you for having me here. And I think Yvonne and Patricia made fantastic points that actually I live by as well. So it was so great to hear them speak about it. I think in my industry is prestige beauty. It's something very different from Yvonne and Patricia. But we are seeing a huge acceleration in consumers wanting more from their brands and like looking for brands that they trust, that they know. There's more interest in safety, and thankfully, I mean, that played well for Clinique and our equity. And I think brands really need to kick it up a notch, because they're not just delivering functional benefits regardless of what industry you're in, but it's about really satisfying someone's emotional benefits and like needs and what they need from brands and that connection, not just a functional product or service. In terms of lessons, I mean, there's so many. I joined Estee Lauder Companies in the middle of the pandemic. I accepted the offer a week before the shutdown, and then joined to lead a team virtually of hundreds of people around the world that I never met. And I'll say, I think empathetic leadership has always been important, but to me, the big lesson was how it has become a requirement to lead. And to lead with empathy. I mean, let's just be honest. We've all undergone a collective trauma as a global community. And you need to make sure that you're giving a safe space for people to say they're not okay, to say they need help, they need support, to normalize the conversation. And I think that as leaders, that I will say that has been the biggest lesson for me, is how much I've had to. That was something that I think came natural to me and I always believed was important, but just having to really lean into that. And in this world that we're all trying to navigate, that continues to change on us.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Michelle. One other question for you. What inspires you to continue being such a strong advocate for your community, and the community defined in whatever way you define that?
Well, I think for me, it has always been about, I believe that I have a responsibility to pay it forward. Like that's like at my core. I feel I've had so many mentors and sponsors and people guiding me along the way. And now I'm in a position where I need to pay it forward. So I really seek out Latino and Latino talent in the organizations or wherever I am at, that I can reach them and help the next generation of leaders. And I know how inspiring and motivating it can be to have people that you see in a senior level that look like you and sound like you. And I think that's important. And I'm a huge advocate for brands to also be truly relevant to the needs of Latinos and Latinas. And I feel like I'm in a position to do that. And I take that very seriously.
And thank you so much for taking that seriously, because I think this is a time to really be an advocate for others, right? Be an advocate for your community. We're going to go ahead and end this with a rapid fire set of questions. The goal is to answer these questions in one sentence or less, really, just a few words. We'll start off with Ivon, and then we'll pass it on to Michelle, and then to Patricia. So 2 questions. What's the one thing you're reading, listening to, or watching these days that is a must for the audience to know about? And what are your favorite resources to find insights or inspiration or innovations?
So I'm going to say the one thing that I'm hearing right now, and I try to hear daily, is the Calm app. Just a 10-minute morning meditation in the morning as soon as I wake up really kind of helps me set my day. And I really feel like starting your day with intention is really important, because we've all been put into a very hard space. That was more than one sentence. And so I'll let Michelle take over, but I would say the Calm meditation app has been helpful for me.
Sounds good. Michelle?
Well, actually, for me, it's actually quite trivial, but I will say that I like to watch a lot of Hallmark Christmas movies. And the reason why I say that that's important is because I think whatever that is for me. You need to find, in this world that we're all living in, that was stressful before the pandemic and now has reached a whole new level, you need to find your happy places that give you calm, that give you levity, that allow you to truly kind of disconnect from it all and relax. And, to me, like, things that I know are going to end well and are happy and warm and fuzzy feelings, I go to that now, because it feels like there's a lot of toxic and darkness. But, for me, that's what it is. And that is also not a rapid fire answer, but that's the answer.
It's all good. Thank you. Patricia? You're on mute. We can't hear you. We're having issues hearing you. But we will go ahead and leave that in the back burner. But I did hear Calm app and Hallmark holiday movies. Thank you all so much. Muchísimas gracias.